So today I really need to talk about signs. What do I mean by signs? Do I mean star sign astrology? No. Am I talking about a Mel Gibson film about aliens? No. Am I talking about some sort of metaphorical signs, things that happen in your life that are kind of like a signal from God? God is trying to send you a sign. It's a sign. No. I'm talking about actual signs. You know, like road signs, signs on a door. Fucking signs. You know, you see a sign and it says something. Why do I want to talk about signs? Well, something happened recently. Something happened at work. I'm working at a gym, and there's a big cupboard with a big doorway, and people leave stuff in front of the doorway, and then you can't get in and out of the cupboard. Well, you can, but there's someone in the fucking way, and they've got to get out of the way. So we want to put a sign on the door saying, you know, don't leave stuff in front of this door. Pretty simple, right? Of course not. Nothing's ever simple. So we have like a group chat on WhatsApp where everyone talks and says stuff. So in this group chat, someone says, we need a sign on that door because people keep leaving stuff in front of that door. The girl who is in charge of making the sign, she responds in the group chat asking, what should the sign say? She's asking us what we think the sign should say. So I said in the group chat, make it say, please do not block this doorway. That's it. Please do not block this doorway. And then I said, make it in the brightest colours you possibly can. That's it. That's all I said. So she got to work at doing that. But she didn't do that. She didn't make the sign say that. Now, I knew she wouldn't. I knew she wouldn't just make it say what it said to say. I just knew she wouldn't. Now, I don't really want to go here, but this is kind of a side note. This is not really what I'm trying to talk about here. But it is worth mentioning that I knew she wouldn't do that because she's female. Females can't do that. They can't just write a sign that says, do not block this doorway. That's all it needs to say. But I added the please. Because you don't put please at the end. You don't end with please, thank you, sorry, please, thank you, sorry, bye. You don't end with that because it makes it seem like it's sort of optional or maybe like you're doing them a big favour. If you're going to be polite, then you put the please at the beginning. Please do not block this doorway. Because all you really need is do not block this doorway. But I actually bothered adding the please because I knew that the female would go, do you not think that's a bit blunt and a bit abrupt? Like that's a problem. It's like it's a fucking sign. It's not a real person saying something to someone. When you talk to someone, you need to be polite and civil. But a sign doesn't need to be polite and civil. It just needs to say the thing. So anyway, I knew she wouldn't just put that. I knew she would add something that's like, please, thank you, sorry, bye. I knew she would add something like that. But she added more than that. She went away. And by the way, this girl I'm talking about, I love this girl. She's amazing. I get on with her really well. I'm not talking about some idiot that I think's a complete spaz. Which makes it more frustrating because she's not an idiot and I like her. But I just knew that because the nature of the female, she would have to add something to this sign and make it more nice and more... Well, let me just read. This is what it says. It says, access is required at all times. Please keep this doorway clear. Then she adds, please do not place equipment, benches, or weights in front of this door. Thanks for your understanding and cooperation. So that end bit is what I predicted. I knew that there was going to be some female niceties put in there at the end. And I also did predict that there would be this mistake of putting specificity. Is it specificity or specific? I knew that you put specifics in there that don't need to be there. The bit where it says, please do not place equipment, benches, or weights in front of this door. Now, that bit is nothing to do with her being female. That's just because people don't know how to make signs. The reason why you shouldn't specify things like that is because anything that you have specified that is not permitted, it can give the impression that anything you haven't mentioned in the specifics are permitted. So, what if someone leaves a bottle of water in front of the door on the floor now? Because that wasn't mentioned in the specifics. Or what if someone leaves their phone on the floor and their keys and shit? So the idea isn't, you need to add that as well. You need to say, don't leave equipment, benches, or weights, or bottles of water, or phones, or keys. You haven't got to think of everything in the whole fucking universe to mention. You just don't mention any of that. You just say, do not block this doorway. And that encompasses all things in the universe that you could possibly block the doorway with, including living people. Don't stand in front of the fucking doorway. Don't stand there talking when someone's trying to get in and out of the cupboard. So, why did this bother me so much? A couple of reasons. I started trying to fight my case and go, no. I didn't actually say anything to her about how long-winded her sign is and how it doesn't need that many words. She started saying she's going to reprint it in a different colour that wasn't as bright coloured as this. And I was like, no, leave it. It needs to be noticeable. It needs to be bright colours. It can't just blend into the background. Signs aren't for decoration. It's a sign that's supposed to be telling you something. So I started trying to tell her, no, leave it with the bright colours. Don't change it. And this is what bothers me, is I started getting the impression this happens in life sometimes. Where you're trying to tell someone how to do something. I'm trying to tell her how signs work. But it's not coming across that way. It's coming across like I'm saying that I want the sign how I want it. like I'm going, no, don't do it like that. Do it how I like it. And it's like, it's nothing to do with how I like it. If we were doing the sign how I like it, then we would have signs all over the fucking gym with a photograph of me shaking my finger at people saying, move your ass out of the way. Can't you fucking see that I'm trying to get through here? If I had the signs how I want it, that's how they would be. But obviously I know that's ridiculous and they're not going to do that. I'm not telling you how I want the sign and what my personal preference is. I'm telling you how a sign is supposed to be. Like, psychologists figured out the best way to do signs years before any of us were born, all right? Here's the rules on how to make a sign. The sign needs to be bold in colour. Why? So people notice it. They're supposed to notice it. It needs to have as few words as possible. Why? Well, because the less they have to read, the more likely they're going to read it. And the third rule is it needs to be so direct. Not to be rude or not because we don't want to be nice. It needs to be direct because you need to leave absolutely no room for misinterpretation. It needs to be understood straight away, easily. That's not how I like signs to be. That's how signs work. This sign that she's put on the door she's done everything wrong. She's done it all wrong. And I'm trying to tell her, and I realise I can't, because it just sounds like I'm being fussy about how I like things. No, but I want it in this colour. That's not what I'm doing. Because there's a goal to a sign. What is the goal? You want people to read it, and you want them to obey it. You want them to do what it says. So this is the best way to get that done, is to make it bold in colour, they notice it. Few words, they read it. Direct, they get it, they do it. Why do you think a wet floor sign is bright yellow and it just says wet floor? Do you think it's because the person who made it just really likes the colour yellow? No, it's because that's the best way to do that sign. Think of a no smoking sign. Bold red, and it just says no smoking. The no smoking sign is actually a great example of what I'm talking about here. Also, back to the female thing. Where females always want to put like a nice thing at the end, like, sorry to bother you, sorry, thank you, sorry, thank you, sorry. They always want to put that at the end. And it's like, I don't know why you want to do that, because when you see a no smoking sign, you don't think, oh, that's a bit rude, do you? You don't go, oh, it's so just blunt. It just says no smoking. Why can't it say, please, no smoking, sorry, thank you? No, you don't feel that way, do you? You just see it and you go, oh, no smoking, oh, we can't smoke here. But then, yeah, the no smoking sign is the best example of what I'm talking about here, because think about what I said about how it needs to be direct and leave absolutely no room for misinterpretation. Because smoking, you know, how do we know that we're talking about smoking cigarettes here? How do we know that we're not talking about something else that smokes? A chimney smokes. You know, if you burn toast in the toaster, smoke comes out. There's loads of things that could be smoking. What does it mean? Well, just in case you don't know what it means, they have a little picture of a cigarette with a cross through it. So it just says no smoking, and then it shows you a little picture of a cigarette with a cross through it. That's it. The no smoking sign is like amazing. Bold red, no smoking, cigarette, cross through it. Bam. That's a sign. It doesn't say, excuse me, sorry, I know you really like smoking, but we don't want you to smoke here. So, you know, you can smoke outside or you can go home and smoke in your own house, but you can't smoke right here. Sorry about that. Sorry, thank you, sorry, bye. Thank you, sorry, bye. It doesn't say that, does it? It just says, no smoking. Picture of your cigarette with a fucking cross through it. Because you're not doing that here. You thought you were smoking here. Guess what? Bold red. No smoking. Here's your cigarette. Cross through it. You know, the wet floor sign doesn't say, it's not like a white sign with really small print black writing on it that says, the floor you're standing on might be wet right now because someone's mopping it and you might slip up. Sorry about that, but it should be dry soon and you'll be able to walk. It doesn't say that. It just says wet floor. Bright yellow. Wham! Yellow and black. Like a wasp. Bold red. No smoking. No. What about a stop sign? The stop sign is the almighty, perfect sign. It only has one word. One syllable. Stop! You know, like back in the day, they don't do this anymore because they've got like little electric lights everywhere. But remember back in the day when they were fixing the traffic lights? There'd be like a bunch of builders on the street and a fucking dude would actually have to stand there with a sign and it would say stop, and then he'd turn it round and it's green and it says go. He's holding a big lollipop and it's bright red and it says stop, and then he turns it round and it goes go. These are just one word, one syllable signs. These are unreal. You know, red, stop. It doesn't say, I'm sorry, I know this might be a bit rude. I don't want to be rude, but I kind of really need you to stop right now. Thank you very much. I need somebody with a human touch. Hey, you, always on the run. Slow down, baby, gotta have some fun. Da 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 da. Always lasts forever. Na 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 blah 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 blah. Stop right now. Thank you very much. Yeah. The sign does not say that, because that would not work. What works is bold colour, few words as possible, direct. That's what works. That's a sign. So, you know, there's a number of reasons why this has bothered me so much. A is I feel like I was misunderstood. I feel like when I was trying to say, no, you don't do a sign like that, you do it like this, I don't think anyone got that that's what I was saying. I think that people think that I'm just going, why aren't you doing the sign how I want it? It's like it's nothing to do with how I want it. The other reason why this is bothering me is because I can't really let it go. Do you know why? Because everywhere I go, all I see is signs everywhere. I'm constantly reminded, every time I see a no smoking sign, I'm like, that's perfect. Why couldn't you do it like that? Every time I see any sign, There's signs everywhere. Wet floor, you know. Caution. Exit. No entry. So all you need on that door is anything, any bright colour you can possibly get on the printer. I know that you don't have all the choice in the world, and it just needs to say, do not block this doorway. But no, it doesn't say that. It has like 5 paragraphs, and no one's going to read it. So what does it say? It says, access is required at all times. Please keep this doorway clear. Please do not place equipment, benches, or weights in front of this door. Thanks for your understanding and your cooperation. No one's going to read that. No one's going to read that. And your brain just blocks stuff like that out. If you see a piece of paper stuck to the wall and it's got like 5 paragraphs of writing on it, you just think, oh, hopefully that's for someone else, that's not aimed at me. You're not going to stand there and read it. And we actually had a meeting at work once, and someone suggested in the meeting, they suggested to the manager, oh, can we put a sign up in the toilets telling people not to do this or do that? I can't remember what they said, but they suggested that they put a sign on the wall in the toilets telling people not to do something. And the manager sort of grinned and went, there already is a sign in the toilet that says that. And we all laughed. We all laughed at how, like, that sign's already there, which means people have not read it because they're still doing the thing. The sign hasn't worked, we know that much, because you want that sign to tell people not to do the thing, but they are doing the thing, even though the sign's there. You're in the toilet wishing that sign was there, and the sign is so inefficient and so ineffective that even you didn't notice it was there. And you're actually asking for it to be there. The sign is so unnoticeable that even you're actually requesting for it to be there, and it's not, and it is there. So I'm trying to go, look, your signs don't work. Can you do me a favour and can you look at already existing signs and can you take inspiration from that? Like I feel like this girl, she's treating the sign like how you would treat an advertisement for something. Like, you're like, oh, we really want people to come to this thing. Can you do like an advertisement for it? And you would design it like the way that she's designed this sign. You know, you would put the most important bit in the middle, like she has, and you'd put different things in different sized fonts and position it in the way she's positioned it. But this isn't an advertisement. This is a sign that's supposed to tell people to do something. Yeah, she's designed it like a poster or a flyer, you know, a poster that's telling you about something rather than a sign. Now, as much as I enjoy my rants, whenever I rant about something, it's because something has bothered me. And it doesn't matter what the thing is in question, it doesn't matter what the topic is. It's actually always the same thing that's bothered me. It's always a misunderstanding. When I think something is obvious and it's right there staring you in the face, but there's all this confusion around it and there's all this misunderstanding, I always feel the need to do a big rant about it, right? But this particular rant is extra delicious. Do you know why? Because isn't it just beautiful? Isn't it just wonderful? What is a rant? It's when someone explodes with words about something that's bothered them. Isn't it just wonderful how I have just had a rant and used so many words to describe and explain how important it is to use as few words as possible in a particular situation? Isn't that just delicious? Isn't that yummy? Isn't it brilliant how I felt the need to use a million words to explain why it's so important to use as few words as possible when you're making a sign, of course. So I hope this helps. You know, for anyone who ever listens to this, if you ever need to make a sign for something, I hope I've showing you how to do it. It's bold colours, as few words as possible, and direct. Just in case you're thinking, oh, maybe I'll put something specific in there because I'm trying to tell them specifically what I want to do. No, that will overcomplicate the sign. And also, if you miss anything out in the specifics, then that will defeat the point of being specific, won't it? So you'll have to include every possible thing in the whole world. No, you leave out the specifics. You keep it direct. And just in case you think, oh, maybe I'll put something nice at the end so people don't think I'm an asshole. No, no one's even thinking about who wrote the sign or anything like that. Okay, it's not personal. Signs aren't personal. That's not what they're for. They're for warnings. They're for orders and direction. Instruction. That's what signs are for. You don't need to say anything personal. In fact, putting something personal, going, thank you, sorry, that actually makes people think about who wrote it and go, oh, they wrote that. Oh, they put it like that. Oh. And now they're not thinking about what the fucking sign said. They're thinking about who wrote it and who put it there. You don't think that when you see an exit sign, do you? You don't think that when you see a no smoking sign. You don't think, who wrote that? Why didn't they say it nice? You don't need anything other than the message, the order, the instruction. That's it. Anything else that you add to the sign obscures the sign. It obstructs the goal of the sign. The sign will be a failure. It won't work. It won't serve its purpose. I hope this helps.